You are invited to share stories about learning experiences you had during the pandemic of 2020. Follow the steps to record a video for our archives. Click the link provided. A countdown will appear. This tells you how long to wait for your turn. When the countdown finishes, you will see the prompt to record. Record your reply. When you are done, click the End button. Your video will be posted in approximately 7 days.
Learning experiences are painful to go through, but in the end you've learned something. Hopefully something important, right? Something my mother used to say when I was a kid. I hated it every time she said it. Now I say it to myself when I'm going through bad things. It's still hard to believe. It's not that I'm against learning. I'd call myself a curious person. I like to know more about everything, not just the stuff you need to know for like work or something. So when all the talk started about the pandemic, I wondered. Now I knew about an epidemic, but not a pandemic. So I looked it up in the dictionary. A pandemic is an epidemic that's spread everywhere, causing big problems. It's also sort of related to pandemonium. That made sense to me. Well, maybe just to me. It's always been hard to describe my fascination of wanting to know something for sure. My mother says I act this way because I want to seem smart, but I'm really just collecting words for crosswords or Scrabble or something. I don't contradict her. At least somebody thinks I have good reason to act like I do. My way of thinking, of figuring things out, has always seemed normal to me, but I've been called stupid for it. Actually, it's my ex, Jerry, who called me stupid. For a lot of reasons, he said. He had his own way of putting it. You're just good for cooking and screwing. Now you see why he was my ex. Superior ex started back in high school. Back then, I didn't realize that Jerry feared he was stupid, so he'd attack me. It took me years to figure out his game. Maybe that proves I am stupid. He needed someone to beat down, call names, and make himself feel smarter. There's a term for it in psychology. I read it once in some article, but I forget it now. I just knew I was the sucker that had fallen for it. Still don't know why. Once I got past those years and realized I was smart enough, it was time to leave Jerry behind. And then I was free. I could read anything, say anything, do anything. I could get obsessed with things that were silly, like Turner Classic Movies. Oh, a whole underground of people who idolized old Hollywood magic. Oh, and cute TV shows about animals. And then I got into nature documentaries. From there, I got really into the science of it. It's hard to believe I read all that science and environmental stuff. And that's how it goes. I study something intently, drift away, never completely leave it, but don't remain a devout fanatic. There's always some new fascination. I guess it's the excitement of learning new facts and sharing them with people who are into the same thing. It's fun. Oh, but for pandemic, all I really knew was the dictionary definition. So I started reading up on it, doing my research online like I always do. Coronavirus. There are lots of them. That's why they name them with numbers. Some of them just make you a little sick and that's all, but this one changed, mutated to become more deadly. And then other people wrote that it wasn't more deadly, just like a regular cold or flu. First, I'd read that this new virus could stick around for a long time, and then another site proved that it would be gone quickly and we'd all have immunity. So research was making me more confused. I wasn't learning any facts I could hang on to. And reading about the pandemic always led to political news. I hated it. Just endless arguments and name calling. I've had enough of that in my life. I don't need any more. Each guy just believed the other was out to destroy America. It was hard for me to figure out what was truth and what was lies. I was worried about my folks and relatives 1 minute, and then I tell myself it was being silly. It wasn't that bad. I was being torn apart like everyone else. Oh, and then there were the protests to open back up for business. I got it. Understood it. People have no money. Jobs may never come back. They could lose their home. They're desperate. I was lucky. I was still working, still collecting a paycheck. So I broke my own rule and watched the news on TV to see the protest at the state capitol. And that's when I saw these men at the protest carrying their big military-style rifle, whatever they're called. But who do I see in the group of men? My ex, Jerry. Now, I know his auto repair shop is still open. He's not hurting. He's not into this gun culture freedom stuff. He's just going along with it because the other guys are doing it. Right then, I could only see it one way. They look like little boys prancing around with their big guns playing army. These men who want to seem so tough and intimidating, really just pathetic. I couldn't watch anymore. I know it isn't fair. My emotions about Jerry clouding everything else, but what was I supposed to think? I know him, know he's a liar, and he's one of these men out there showing off, probably thinking he's so smart and everyone else is stupid. How to describe my reaction? Mad? Disgusted? People are dying and these men are putting on a show, acting out threats and intimidation. They want to seem like they're in control, but they're really just silly. I called one of my oldest friends, Kathy. She's a social worker. I thought she might be able to look at it objectively, give me some new perspective. I love what she said. The only thing that matters is people helping other people. Not arguing, not fighting, just simple stuff. Watching out for one another. The only sin is selfishness. If we don't work together, we'll all suffer. It's really just a new way of being selfish. Help others to help yourself. And it's complicated. It's not meant to be easy. There are a lot of real assholes out there with warped opinions. I really respect Kathy. And she used a word I didn't have to look up. I know what an asshole is. That's something I've learned from experience. We all have. And sharing life with assholes can be difficult. So, I have learned something basic. We need to respect each other, tolerate other beliefs. I can live my life, and Jerry can live his, even if he is an asshole. Bye.
Yes, I think I should begin with Fred. He was my husband. Died a little over a year ago. He'd been sick for, I don't know, 5 years. Everything went wrong for him. It was all from smoking, I'm sure. Oh, he couldn't stop. He tried, but he couldn't stop cigarettes. First it was his lungs, then his blood pressure, heart, kidneys, all of it. Fred said he just wore out. I must say, I'm glad he died before all this COVID virus came around. I would have hated to have him whisked off, never seeing him alive again. Well, poor friend Ella. Her husband went into the hospital and he never came home. I got to be with Fred through it all. I was there in the hospital at the very end. My grandchildren think that my sitting there and watching like that is kind of ghoulish. I laughed. I told them that being with him, holding his hand at the very end, after more than 50 years together, was important. I knew I had done everything I could for him, and that was a comfort for me. So, these days I live alone in quarantine. The first few weeks of isolation were wonderful. The only thing I had to do was take care of myself. No obligations to anyone else. It was restful. I settled into complete freedom. Could eat when I wanted, take naps anytime. I welcomed the break. Treated it like a vacation. I don't mean to make it sound easy and fun. I know other people suffer terribly. The only danger for me was to go to the drugstore or go grocery shopping. Then my daughter Catherine set up grocery delivery for me. Oh, it was a very clever idea. I would talk with my granddaughter Bobby. I'd tell her my shopping list and she put in the order on her computer. It was a great chance for us to talk. And then I would talk with her brother Billy, and he told me everything I had to watch online and see on TV. I usually didn't like the violent shows or horror stories, but I'd give them a try. I think they felt important, taking care of Grandma. Well, Bobby took her responsibilities very seriously. She checked back with me to make sure that every item was delivered, and when toilet paper was impossible to get, Bobby was actually angry about it. I reminded her that Grandma always bought paper goods way ahead. She was impressed by how well prepared I was, called me a survivalist. She had to explain that word to me. I told her it was common sense, taught me by my mother. Now it seems I'm part of a movement. The isolation did go on too long. I got antsy, I have to admit. I started phoning everyone I ever knew, something I never used to do. I would call all the other kids and grandchildren that lived far away, and I'd talk so long, I'm sure they thought I was losing my mind. I caught myself dragging out the conversations with Bobby and Billy, even scheming about how we might see each other. Isolation tends to bring about all those typical thoughts us old people have, but push into the background. Why me? Why am I the one that's still alive? I can't help but think of all those that you knew and loved that are gone. It's like a catalog of death and love going through your head. Well, I still remember and feel it. Oh, that kind of love never goes away. It stays with you, and I cherish it. Oh, I also find myself wondering if I should work so hard to avoid death. Being careful, avoiding people. Is it really worth living like this just to live longer? To do what? I mean, it's inevitable. And I've lived a long time, so it can end now. But when I start thinking that way, I feel this overwhelming desire to live surge right through me. Living is not something you can talk yourself out of. Oh, I've had a good life. But I'm not ready to give it up yet. Oh, you know how it is. You set yourself little goals. I have to live until I can visit all the children and grandchildren again. Then I want to see all the grandchildren graduate from high school. Maybe even hold on long enough to see them all in college. When I get going, I get greedy, I know. But it's a good reason. to keep putting one foot in front of the other. When I've heard politicians claim that they would be happy to die to ensure a good economy for their children and grandchildren, I laugh. That is not true. Any one of us would gladly volunteer to die for our children. But for a good economy and a strong stock market, oh, please do not try selling me that hogwash. That's ridiculous. Like one of Billy's zombie horror stories. We are a big, rich country. I think we can take care of everyone if we put our mind to it. And I don't care what these leaders and great thinkers claim are reasons why we can't have a decent life for everyone. It's just excuses to not do what needs to be done, and I'm positive about that. You see, I know too much about life and death to be fooled by talk.
These days in isolation, I look back to figure out how I ended up here. I remember my father saying, "Lawyers, they run the world." He repeated a variation of this line every time he had to deal with a lawyer, which was often. He was a small businessman, ran a hardware store, so there were always legal issues. Dad's view was that lawyers made crazy laws and then charged all of us top dollar to live by them. So I became a lawyer. Because he convinced me that lawyers know how everything works. It sounded good. With the right education, you will understand life and get rich. I never saw law as noble. It was solid, lucrative, a way to clean up the messy reality. Well, this pandemic is as messy as it gets, and I'm considering options for myself. At least I'm still working from home. I never did get that law job like I planned. I settled for a real estate company that builds and sells condos. Ugh. I'm bored with it, really. It never was exciting, but at least I got to work with other people in an office. Now I just sit at home, connected to the world by phone and computer, all alone. Just staring at the walls while my student loans stare back at me. And maybe that sounds crazy, but that is how I feel. You know, scientists predicted this whole pandemic mess. I thought it was just made up for dystopian movies. You know, it sounded like a good plot for a futuristic story. It wouldn't happen in real life. No, it would only happen in the old days when they didn't have good medicine. Oh, God. Oh, I thought I knew it all. Not true. You know, I shouldn't be surprised by how this has all turned out. My life has been filled with disaster. You remember the economic crash of 2008? I was planning on going to college the next year. But my father lost his store, had to sell out. I was planning on Ivy League, had to go to my backup school, the public university. Even that took big loans. You know, back then I thought my father had failed. Now I know better. He had no control over it. You know, I can brag a little about myself at the university. I did play it smart. I joined a fraternity filled with future lawyers. I took all the right classes. I joined the best groups on campus just to beef up my resume. I volunteered at a food pantry for poor people. I even joined the Young Republicans. I covered all my bases. I was a focused, hard-charging, high achiever. That was my goal. And after all that, I didn't get into a top-tier law school. Just a good one. That was a shock. Hard work does not beat out the right connections. But I was determined. So I focused on the business track with the fewest theoretical courses that I could. You know, by the stats, I am in the upper class. I make over $80,000 a year. I'm single. Compared to most people, I am way ahead. But the facts, they don't convince me. No matter how many times I go over them, I feel like I have been tricked. I work hard. I mean, I do everything right, and yet I end up feeling like I can't get ahead, or even that I'm falling behind. I mean, the two biggest economic collapses since the Great Depression have happened during my lifetime, and they came 12 years apart. Now, what are the odds of that? It's close to impossible. Yet, here we are. The world does not care that I did everything right. There's not even a guarantee that I will keep my job. My life has been controlled by disasters. All of us have to face that reality. Jesus Christ. Lately I've been having nightmares. Like most people. They are dystopian. And they employ the best CGI special effects. They feel real. My story starts on a sunny day. I'm a happy man. Successful. I have respect as a lawyer. I make money. I enjoy my life. And then, unexpectedly, another economic crash hits. In my version, there are buildings collapsing or literally exploding. There's rubble everywhere, and there are people stuck under the rubble, and they are screaming. And I'm wandering, just climbing over and around, wondering what to do next, just trying to find my way, just trying to get home. I wake up in my little apartment, all alone. It scares me more than it should. I lie in bed and I try to think logically, analytically. I try to prove something to myself, to calculate how to fix things for me. So, I did some thinking of my own, outside the box. I realize now that disasters should always be expected. That's what my experience has taught me. I'm looking to take advantage of the next one and all that follow it, instead of being the victim every damn time. As soon as I get out of this apartment, I'm going to get into bankruptcy law. That's my advice to everyone. Plan for the worst. Consider the evidence. I rest my case.
To begin with, I am a professional volunteer. That's how I see myself. I believe the current term is philanthropist, but I don't use it. Most people see a philanthropist as someone who gives large piles of money to get her name on everything. When I believe in a cause and organization, I always donate my time, doing the same work as any other volunteer. My husband's favorite line is, "I make the money, she gives it away, then she works for free." He thinks that's clever. I just say, "Yes, dear," and donate more money. This pandemic makes it very clear that just throwing money around won't be enough. I am board president of a nonprofit that runs a food pantry and soup kitchen. I think the term meal center is more accurate and less demeaning. Now the number of people needing food assistance has risen wildly in a very short time. We are looking at feeding almost double the number of people per day. The difficulty is not money. I have plenty to give, and I can quickly raise more from friends. The issue is keeping the organization itself operating. Think of any company, large or small, where demand suddenly doubles. Even the most competent business person with the best run organization would find that a disaster. Yet that is exactly the demand falling on our relatively small nonprofit corporation. As the crisis grew, our staff was already struggling, and then our director, our chef, and other staff all came down with the coronavirus. There was no one to run the business. I had no choice but to take over and get other volunteers to jump in. All of our volunteers suddenly became essential workers. Of course, we had to change the way we operated in order to protect our volunteers and customers. After the pandemic, we could no longer serve hot meals in person. We could only serve takeout packages with sandwiches, fruit, and other treats. Our volunteer chefs did find ways to liven up the basic sandwich, but at our food pantry, our volunteers could only fill bags with food and leave them on a table to be picked up. No personal service, no interaction at all. Now it's all about volume and keeping everyone safe. I encouraged older workers and high-risk people to stay home. I found a young volunteer who used social media to recruit a whole new generation to join us. I'm sure they came because they were bored with being stuck at home, but I think they soon realized they were doing important work. They saw firsthand the reality of life for many people, how it is to be poor in America. I think rich people and politicians should be forced to spend some time serving meals to poor people. That would get results. I'm not telling you this to show how wonderful I am or to solicit praise. No, I tell it to show that the priorities of our country are completely absurd. I see and live in both extremes of our society, both rich and poor. For instance, my husband is a good man who is obsessed with money. I understand why this is so. He was made that way by generations of his family. His family is old money. His name is Clinton Jameson Lodge. When a person has 2 or more last names from wealthy families, it is old money. At that same time, I daily see the poorest of the poor struggling through life. I consider myself to be just one of the connections between these two very different worlds. My job is to be the social conscience for our old money, to help give new life to others. I run the private family foundation that CJ and I formed. I make sure that the children and grandchildren are involved to pass on what I was taught. Giving is equally important as the accumulating. In the past, I had to learn how to ask other people for money. At first, I was awkward and unsure, not quite sure what to say. Needless to say, that didn't work. Then I became outraged and I pushed wealthy people too hard. Then I found the right balance to cultivate donors. Ask for a specific amount of money that I know they can afford. Heap lavish praise on donors, and then prove to them that the money was well spent because the outcomes are clearly superior. I became very successful at raising money for my causes. I feel I've mastered the system, but that doesn't mean that I believe this is the best way to take care of people. This pandemic has laid bare the inequalities we take for granted in this country. I see what it is like at ground level. More people are falling behind, becoming poor, and there is not enough money, not enough time, and not enough energy to help them. All of this brings me to a point that I have never said before or want to say. But to be honest, I see hundreds of millions, even billions spent on election campaigns. Add to that the trillions of dollars wasted on pointless wars, military equipment that is not used. All I can think is what I could do with that money. Even more, what our country could accomplish with it. I don't care if it is social welfare programs or simply giving money directly to the people. I know what we do now is not working. We are failing. I know I'm exhausted. Our volunteers are exhausted. This is true all across the country. We can no longer ignore the facts. We have to do better.
So the SBA has significantly streamlined this process. Normally disaster loans require a good bit more of information, but the SBA has tried to make it easier for applicants as of last Monday. And so that's good news in terms of making it easier for you to apply online here. So again, as we just stated, one of these needs to be true. So in this case, I'm going to say that the applicant is a business with not more than 500 employees. and then everything in this section must be true.
I'm a small business owner, and the first thing that I learned from this pandemic is how other businesses run different. I was surprised. I mean, after 2 weeks, maybe a month, all these business owners say they're broke and can't continue without funding. Well, that either means they don't keep a cash reserve to cover expenses for months, or they're lying. Oh, I know some people cry poor all the time, no matter how much money they have, so I'm not sure what the story is for these businesses. You see, I'm a landscaper, so every year I might have to live for months with no income coming in. Basically, I'm talking winter. Oh, when there's lots of snow, I make money on plowing, but a mild winter? Well, I gotta have enough money to live for months. I was taught to always put money away by Bert, who owned this landscaping business. I worked for him since I was a teenager. I took it over when Bert retired, and now it's my business. I take care of myself, and I don't have to ask nobody for nothing. In March, when the quarantine started and everything was closed down, didn't change anything for me. Well, that's when I get my equipment in shape for the long haul ahead. Breakdowns during the season end up costing too much in lost work. So, I plan ahead. Another business practice that seems to be in short supply. The other necessary work is to contact all my customers and to look for new ones. I used to have to spend a lot of time with mail and phone to do that. But no more. Oh, my son Tom, he's a computer whiz. So he does all that with email and online databases. Whatever that is. I'm lucky the kid thinks like his computers. Well, there's times I have to chase him out of his room to help out with the outside work, but on early spring, I'm thankful that he can handle all that. I guess that means I'm a modern business owner with my own tech support department. I just have to feed the kid and, well, keep a roof over his head. I've always done the serious landscaping and special gardens, and now my daughter Becky is my partner for that. She's 16. She's doing the agriculture program in high school. Becky is the one who will probably be taking over this business. I can't guess what Tom will do. He's starting college to study computer science. I hope that he'll be here in the future to work with Becky. The spring started out normal at the barn. We meet in the morning, go through the list for each crew, load up the trucks, and go. One day, Becky came in wearing a mask, and none of us had one on. Oh, she started in on us, talking to us like we were naughty boys. My oldest worker, Mikey, he didn't go for that. He worked that day, said he was quitting, and left. I run a business, which means I need to keep a cool head, get things done, not waste time talking big, confronting people. I gave Mikey a few hours to cool down, and then I called him. First, I said Becky was out of line talking like she did. But masks are mandatory, and that he was out of line too. And then I had to talk to Becky, tell her that she was out of line. Oh, of course, she saw herself as absolutely right. Good riddance to Mikey was her idea. I told her giving orders and ignoring what your workers think is not how a good employer operates. You need to know your workers. Talk to them like people, not just make demands. I admitted, Mikey can be a pain in the ass. But he knows his work, leads his crew, and gets it done right. And he comes back every year. That's valuable for a company like us. Oh, Becky wasn't going to admit anything. She just said she could get a better crew of women because they just work and don't need their egos soothed all the time. I can't say Becky gets that attitude entirely from my wife Marjorie, but I hear the echoes. Marjorie grew up on a dairy farm, so she's used to working just as hard as a man. Her father, Al, closed down the dairy business. You can't make a living unless you have a big herd. Our house is on the farm along with our barn for the business. So Becky learned from Marjorie that on the farm, family does most of the work themselves. They don't depend on employees. Well, they might hire help certain times of the year, but well, that's it. No long-term employees to think about. Besides my landscaping business, there are separate companies working on the same farm. Al took acres of land near the road and, well, he planted Christmas trees. On another piece of land, we started a nursery where we grow fruit trees, ornamentals, berry bushes, all kinds of plants that landscapers need. We sell them to other landscapers. Even when I need plants, my business has to buy them from the farm business. Marjorie and her sister have their own greenhouses where they start vegetables and flowers to sell. They even have a hydroponic setup to grow greens and sell to restaurants. Basically, the farm has been changed to a group of separate businesses that keep us busy all year round. All of our businesses had to adjust to this pandemic. And I don't just mean, wearing masks. Restaurants are closed, so the market for hydroponic greens is gone. People stuck at home decided, hey, they're landscapers, so they buy plants but don't want me to do the work. Some businesses and people decided that they can mow their own lawns. At the same time, another group of people decided to grow their own food. We sold out of the berry bushes and the fruit trees, so I had to scramble to buy more. The vegetable plants started in the greenhouse started selling like crazy. That's what's going on right now. But we remember, there's no guarantee. A dairy farm, run for generations, had to be transformed into different businesses. You could say that we are the opposite of big agribusiness. Oh, those guys are so stuck doing the things one way. They're dumping milk and killing hogs for mass burials. They can't change. It's nuts. I guess our family is just doing what farmers have always done. Flood, drought, windstorm, bugs, blizzard, pandemic. It's all the same. You got to be ready for anything. Adjusting and scrambling is the life that we understand. The way I see it, other businesses are now learning what we already know. They need flexibility to adapt to big change. Nothing stays the same. I think politicians, business people, the public, they're all lying to themselves. They don't want to admit the obvious. Some businesses make it, and some don't. It's painful, I know, but there's no magic fix. We made this mess, and now we have to work harder, smarter. It's time for us to recognize we are at a point where we stop trying to save what's broken and decide to focus on the rebuilding. That's what matters.
I'm not sure, like, how to start. I make more money now than I ever did because of the pandemic, you know? I get a shitload of hours. Sorry, I didn't mean that. It's in the grocery store. I've been working there for a couple years, part-time, like after school, mostly weekends. They closed the high school my senior year, so I don't get to play baseball for my last year or graduate like normal. Kind of blows. But I can do a lot more hours at work. I'm supposed to do my schoolwork online, but I fit it in when I can. I'm doing okay with school. I'll finish and graduate. That's all that counts. So I was doing my normal hours. My boss asks me about more hours. I say, sure. He starts giving me hours all over. Day, night, whatever he needs. And I always show up. Do my work like I'm supposed to do. That's all it takes. Showing up and working. Now he trusts me, calls me one of his best workers. You know, other people don't want to work weird hours. Some got sick with the COVID, others afraid to get it, but I always show up. Now I'm like full-time in hours. Plus, lots of weeks, I get big overtime, real cash. And it's good that I make the cash now because my parents, you know, both lost their jobs. My dad worked in a restaurant. My mom, she worked in a different restaurant, and they both closed. Then after every place closed down, Dad got sick with the COVID stuff, we think. Never got tested. Then my mom got it too. So my work is all we got. I support the family, me, my younger sister, my brother, my parents. My sister does the cooking. My parents taught her. We make it okay. But I don't tell nobody about my parents being sick because I think they wouldn't let me work. The worst shifts, though, those are 11 at night to 6 in the morning. It's tough to stay awake. We have to clean and sanitize everything. My boss said that the store advertises that we clean and sanitize every night. So, he says the night cleaning crew is saving the store. But he never works those overnights with us. And then after the overnights, I get home and eat breakfast because I'm hungry. And then I got to go to sleep during the day in the apartment with everybody home. If I got all day and night to sleep, it's okay. But when he schedules me to go overnight and then come back in at 6 that night, oh, I'm salty for real. Feels like I can fall asleep standing up. But I do it. Don't complain. I got to keep this job in as many hours as they give me. But working the overnight regular, that's the best. There's no customers coming at you complaining or yelling. Some people are nice and they actually thank you for doing work when things are bad. And I think I'm back, but I'm thinking it's nice, but it'd be better to get paid more like danger pay, you know? But I don't say that out loud to anyone. Dad said the store was screwing me over, taking advantage because I was a young kid. I didn't care. I figured I was killing it, bringing home the goods. My parents got that one-time government cash deal. That paid a lot of the bills, but they had to wait to get stronger, to take themselves out to apply for the unemployment stuff. I think we're still waiting to see that money. I missed the whole George Floyd murder because I was working. Never checked the news or anything. Knew nothing about it until my friends Art C and Deep Z did a rap about Floyd's murder and Breonna Taylor and other black people killed by police. A white guy and black guy rapping together? Oh, it was lit. My man Art C came by the store calling me out for not getting with the protest. He was all of a sudden serious. I wouldn't let me walk away. I told him why I was working and he backed off some, but he still pushed. Protest was Saturday, and I was off, but I had to work Friday overnight. I went with it. Go home after work, sleep a few hours in the morning, and then catch a ride with Artsy to the protest. I didn't tell the fam or boss I was going to any protest. Artsy made all the plans. He gathered kids from school, white, black, and brown, to walk together. We hadn't been together for months. He made different signs that had the same color so they blended together. And Jesse and the other girls had been making masks for people, so Artsy picked out cloth that made us masks that matched. We looked like a real organized group. Some old folks came over to us kids and said, kids like us, gave them hope for the future. And then there was another group behind us with drums, so we all danced together for the whole march. I admit that we did take our masks down when we started breathing heavy, but it didn't kill the spirit. It was totally awesome. The speeches and stuff after the protest march, that was not for me. I was tired and couldn't listen. I guess the stuff is important to everyone, but not to me. I had to hang and wait for Artsy, so I found a place to sit down. And then, and then Jessie came over to talk with me. She sat down and we started talking about me working, take care of the family, and she thought I was a hero. That was very cool. She and I want to meet up again, but it's tough. My crazy schedule and then us having to be distanced with masks all the time. But I'm thinking we got to make it work. Yeah. So now I know for sure that I can deal with just about anything. I'm not all organized like Art C. That's not me. I don't know what I'm going to do for work for the rest of my life, but I know I'm ready for, like, my life. Here I am making it in one of the worst times. So I guess that's what I learned. It's all about the fam and your peeps. I can take care of me and other people too. Yeah. So that's it.
Yes, so, hello. Obviously, my senior year in college was cut short by the pandemic. I didn't miss the graduation ceremony at all. I have no misty-eyed nostalgia about my school. Most important was the connections I built with my friends. We weren't your stereotypical college kids going wild at spring break. We had built a serious community based on progressive politics. I'm not a romantic. I'm factual. I know we can't do it ourselves, but we have to do our part. Of course, I had to move back in with my parents and live in my old room. We all did. It's like we've regressed to being teenagers. Our plan to live together as a community after college is gone. The pandemic did give me great material for my senior thesis, Late-Stage Capitalism in the United States. Every day on the news just reinforces my thesis. The country is stuck in that late stage. The indications are clear. Increasing inequality, system rigged to help the rich, unchecked corporate power, shrinking middle class. Sorry, I won't go on. But it's all made obvious by the pandemic. We have to change the system or it'll destroy us. After researching and writing all day, I'd sit down to dinner with my parents. I'd be excited and talk about the work I was doing. My mother listened and said nothing. My father actually got mad. Now, my family always had political arguments, but more teasing. But now my dad's tone was nasty and aimed at me. I could feel tension and serious anger. My father and I avoided each other. I stopped talking about my project. He suddenly had lots of evening meetings with his insurance customers. I finished my paper. My professor gave me an A, and I was done with college. I settled in for a long summer slog. Started running again so I wouldn't turn into a slacker. I did the shopping for my grandparents. I left the bags on their porch. They'd come out, stand on the porch while I stood on the lawn. We'd wave at each other. That was our quality time together. We didn't dare get any closer, even with masks. Then, the murder of George Floyd, that literally changed the country. I started by watching the entire gruesome video. It was enraging. Then, I joined a local organizing group to coordinate actions for racial and social justice. This group has serious intent, gathering up representatives from white, black, and brown communities to work together. It's my ideal organization. The day arrived of our first demonstration. We had a huge crowd. It was peaceful, without violence. Even the police stayed calm, not in full military gear. And we clearly stated our truly radical message. We went beyond George Floyd to Breonna Taylor to so many others. We showed systemic racism can't be denied. I was exhilarated and proud. That day confirmed activism is what I need to do with my life. When I went back home that night, I was still joyful, but my father met me wearing a mask. I figured we'd have our typical political argument, but he surprised me. Are you crazy? Going to a demonstration in the middle of a pandemic? Are you trying to kill your grandparents and us? You do not go out, especially to see your grandparents. We will leave meals at your door. Talk to us by cell phone only. So, here I sit, in my room, completely isolated, except for my electronic devices. I have a lot of time to think. Going to the demonstration was right. We have to fight back against the injustice that has become normal. But it's also right to be aware and take care of other people, especially older ones like my grandparents. So, I realize I can't be a purist. That means I have to balance between my strongly held beliefs. I always mocked any politician who promoted a balanced approach. But here I am, eating crow, as my grandma says. So I haven't gone to more demonstrations. I do everything I can to help from my room. Staying in one room has also changed me. I keep replaying this one incident. My friend Tessa's father was visiting. He was the chief financial officer of some big corporation, a very successful capitalist. He said, "The flaw of capitalism is that too many people are expendable." Flaw was the word that pissed me off. This whole oppressive system has just one little flaw? I didn't tear into him because he was leaving with Tessa. I let the moment pass. But now, what he said sticks in my head. I get it. Old people, my grandparents, don't produce anything of value. Expendable. Black and brown people are supposed to be cheap labor. Expendable. Anyone poor. Expendable. I have a new perspective on the pandemic. Most of the deaths are from the people considered expendable. And that means COVID-19 is a disease capitalists can ignore. Think of it. It clears out the expendable deadwood and boosts the stock market. Why stop it? This idea was like a revelation to me. I'm terrified it's true. Telling myself it's a paranoid conspiracy theory, but it does make sense. I'm not sure what to believe. I'm all alone with this conspiracy theory stuck in my head. I'm hoping some of you will send me your thoughts. I'm counting on a community to help me through this. I'll admit, for once, I'm not sure what's right.
So you're going to elevate one back leg, bring your front leg forward, and you're going to drive through your heel here and do reps until you get 2 to 3 reps left in the tank. For a lot of you, that's going to be way too many reps, so you're going to need to make it a little bit harder on yourself. So one way that you can do that is by keeping a constant tension approach. So if you come down, get nice and deep here, and then you're not going to come and rest all the way up at the top. You're just going to keep a nice pulse going, and you're probably going to bang out a nice few reps. Now if that's still too easy for you, you're probably going to need some kind of weighted resistance. So I've only got 12-pound dumbbells here at home for now, but even just adding that little bit of extra weight can make a big difference. If you don't have any weight at all, you can make it a little bit more difficult by increasing the range of motion. So in addition to keeping that constant tension approach, you can elevate your front foot up here. Careful with this could be bad. And get a little bit deeper at the bottom, and then still keeping your constant tension approach at the top. And that's going to be more challenging than just simply doing it with that shorter range of motion. All right.
Talking to a computer is weird. I mean, I can talk to just about anyone. It's part of my job. I'm a personal trainer at the gym, so, I talk with people all the time. I have to read them, know when to push them or to encourage them or to say nothing. I like to think of it as reading people's minds to help them get the body that they want. It is physical, but it's also mental. And it's not as simple as lifting some weights, bro. So I'm sitting at home because of this virus, which is dumb. I mean, I'm healthy, so if I get it, I'm gonna be fine. And keeping everybody away from the gym, it's not the best thing for their health. We should all be training and getting stronger and better. I think that's the best cure for all of us. Now I'm not saying that we should write people off and let them die because they got some pre-existing health condition. No, nothing like that. Come on. I have parents and grandparents. I know better than to get them sick. But me staying in my house all the time, it doesn't protect them. I think I can be smart enough to work, and people can be smart enough to train without spreading disease all over the place. Anyway, that's the way I figure it. But nobody listens to me, so I work out in my home gym. Do some road work. My wife Jane, she's helping the kids with their schoolwork because they're home. They're just 9 and 10. My job is recess. We have a lot of fun. But it is also a good physical workout. So, anyway, we're going along, watching our savings shrink, and this murder thing with George Floyd happens, and it's followed by demonstrations and even riots on the TV, and I've got no idea how to explain this to my kids. I can't even explain it to myself. And then Jane and I, we watch the video, and it's... what? I don't know. Awful? I mean, what else can you say? You watch a man die. Slowly. For real. Not fake like on the TV. And I can't get it out of my head. I mean, we don't let the kids see it, but they ask questions. So Jane goes online to figure out how to talk with them. I'm no help. TV's got these young guys on from Black Lives Matter. They're talking about the whole thing. And next, there are these experts on saying we need to have a conversation about race in this country. And I've got no idea what that means. I'm thinking, like, how does a guy like me do that? So I asked Jane, and she goes online for answers. She finds this website with a chart about how to talk about race, and it's got these boxes and circles with words in it, and lines are connecting this way and that, and just stuff is just written all over the page. It's like a maze. No one, and I mean no one, can make sense from this mess about how to talk to anyone. It makes no sense. But it does make me think about me talking to people, and I realize I don't know how to talk to black guys. Like, okay, there are these two black guys who come into the gym, and they are serious about bodybuilding, you know? So they come to me, and I talk to them, Ahmed and JD, about training and nutrition and programming, their macros, you know, the whole training plan. You know, we just talk like the gym rats that we are, you know? But that is all that we talk about. It's just business. So is that wrong? Like, what am I supposed to do? We're gonna push them to talk about their feelings and be buddies? I don't know. Maybe it is weird that I don't know where Ahmed lives or what JD does. Yeah, but here's the thing. I feel like I have a normal relationship with them. You know? Like I would anyone else at the gym. You know, we have fun, and I respect them because they are serious. You know, Ahmed and JD, they're really my kind of guys. You know, they are serious bodybuilders. So, I don't know what I'm gonna do about this whole conversation thing. We all want to get back to normal training, and when we do, what am I gonna say? So, Ahmed, JD, I know we all have a responsibility to talk about race. They're either gonna laugh me out of the place, or they're gonna take me up on it. And then what do I say? Well, let's talk about your experiences as black men. I would feel so stupid saying something like that, and it's not me at all. And do they even want to talk about this stuff with me? I mean, all this time, they haven't said one word about personal stuff to me, and they're gonna start now? No. I think this is one of those times where it's just best to not say anything. You know? If I make a big deal of it, we're probably all gonna get uncomfortable, and I'm gonna ruin our whole thing. I think I'll just be, you know, the dumb jock guy. Yeah, that's best. I think. Just talk like I normally do, and don't change my attitude at all. You know, and then when they come in, I'll just say something like, oh, hey, boys are putting on a little quarantine weight there. Better hit the bike. Yeah. I hope that'll be okay.